In my last ranking video, you guys had a ton to say. From my channel to the selections, where I hit and where I missed. And trust me, your words were heard. I've watched each and every one of your suggestions. Some were good, while some were, yeah. Nonetheless, I had a hell of a time. Get it? Because hell of a boss, like, well, it doesn't matter. You don't have to. It's not on the list. The way that my rankings are, well, ranked is determined by three factors. One, impact, societal or personal. Any impact is good impact, depending on the magnitude, of course. Anywhere from maintaining meme relevancy over the years, like SpongeBob, to touching you emotionally down to the core of your character, like an episode of One Piece, who also has maintained years of relevance, but any chance to glaze Oda, right? The next factor that I want to yap about is number two, familiarity. How recognizable the series is at first glance or without even having seen it. The way that some dingus can just point at this picture and say, oh, that's the guy from Fortnite, that's Son Goku. Or how my mom can look at this little guy and tell that that's Pikachu. Fun fact, my mom actually can quote a scene from, I think it's like episode 132 from Inuyasha. Don't quote me on that. But it made her laugh one time when I was watching it as a kid, and she just never let it go. It's never exactly what you know, but the fact you even have the frame of reference without the necessary context. Much like my mother and the dingus in these two examples. Numero tres goes to replayability. How much we're spending the show back regardless of how much time has passed. This can also go hand in hand with how much quality a show gains or loses with each rewatch. It all just depends on how I'm feeling. Or you, Sid, whoever's watching it, really. I feel like that's pretty clear and cutthroat, so if you're confused, just take a few steps back and try again. And for the rest of you, I'm Ant Glosama, and today we're going to be talking about another top 15 adult animated shows. The first show that we've got on this list is Metalocalypse. Look, shout out to Gemini S for this show. I would have never given it a glance if it wasn't for them. If you're not familiar with Metalocalypse, it's a show about this band called Deathlock. They're basically the most popular band in the world, and their influence has made them a target of the world government. Look, y'all, I'm gonna just be real here. I'm gonna be straight and narrow. This is probably the worst show that I've ever watched in my entire life. It just sucks. It's so bad. Given I'm only really talking about the first episode because I couldn't bring myself to endure another one after what was probably the longest 10 minutes of my entire life watching the previous. The show just all around was an unpleasant experience in every way, shape, or form. The satanic visuals, and I know what some of you are gonna say, and that's just punk rock. Is it too metal for you, bro? And the answer is yes, it is. From what I've taken away, the show has no charm whatsoever. The art style is dreadful. Everybody's just drawn so ugly. It's weird. It's like plentiful details, but an abysmal amount of quality. The humor isn't really there, and the attempts they make at jokes are just, Exactly. The main characters aren't really anything special either. I felt not even a sliver of attachment to, like, anyone. They're all just pretty bad people from what the show gives us in this first glimpse. They're like sadistic man children. The first episode is about one of their chefs dying and they have to fend for themselves. It's just ridiculous on every end. Honestly, the most points that I can give it, if any, is the overarching plot with the world leaders, US government? I don't know, planning to take out the band. Like, it's cool, I guess. It just doesn't really move me overall. The show's rough. My chest felt heavy the entire time I watched the show. I don't know. It just felt wrong watching this. Like, I was doing an injustice to myself. Literally every second of this single episode emphasized why I never even bothered with it as a kid, and it's reaffirmed why I won't be continuing this series in the near, far, nor existing future. Good riddance, Metalocalypse. Now then, with all the riffraff to the side, how about we move on to number 14 on our list. At number 14, we've got Clerks. Shout out Ultra Flams. Flames? Probably. To start, Clerks is a show. It indeed is a show. Based off of a movie, apparently. I'm sure that some of you already knew that from the title alone, others like myself did not. Like you guys, I didn't see the movie going into this. I still haven't seen the movie coming out of it. Will that ever change? Maybe. I don't know. Probably after I finish Sopranos. But back to the topic. For those that have seen the movie, they don't actually set the guy on fire at the start of the movie, do they? Like this is maddening. I guess I'm asking you guys, how one-to-one is the show and the movie in comparison to one another? Hopefully someone can let me know if I don't find out by the time this is uploaded. Now, while I may seem enthused to get into this series, the thing about me and Clerks is I just don't like it. I don't know. Maybe it's because I haven't seen the movie, or maybe I haven't watched it fully through, but I don't know. It just wasn't that great to me. I'm sorry. Like, the main characters, let's start there. Look, I don't even remember their names while I'm typing the script, so hold on. Yeah, Dante and Randall. Dante and Randall are so bland to me. Like, ugh. They're kind of losers, but not in a cool way like Mordecai and Rigby. They're kind of like a Bizarro, High Five, Ghost, and Muscle Man. Speaking of secondary characters, I got more reactions from Jay and Silent Bob, didn't have to look those up by the way, than I did spending a whole episode following around Dante and Randall.
And I'm Silent Bob.
And I'm Charles Barkley.
What the hell are you doing here?
These two are actually hilarious, and I think their charm comes from us not constantly following them, so their timing when they do come through with the laughs is always perfect. But these two corny blokes are a couple of jokes. The show overall has a pretty decent plot, but a lot of the jokes that aren't from Jay and Bob fall pretty flat. They're just low-hanging fruit a lot of the time. But I do also have to keep in mind that it is a reflection of the times that it came from, down to the language used and the IKEA jokes. I will admit though, Randall did make me laugh one time during my run of this series.
Get these handcuffs off me.
We've got you, Leonardo. Your Confederate plans are thwarted.
And I bet you're shocked to see your beloved fiance is none other than I, Randall.
I knew it all the time.
Ew.
Okay. This one caught me off guard. Hats off. You're 1 for 227. All in all, though, Clerks could be a loose adaptation or a one-to-one reflection of the cinematic itself, but we may never know. Well, I'm sure y'all do, but I'm not gonna look into that. Clerks is a swing and a miss for me, but hopefully it can pick up where things went wrong. Farewell, Clerks. May our paths cross again in the next life. Alright, that was pretty smooth. And with Clerks all checked out, let's go on to number 13.
Come on! This is a story of a dog named Buddy, lost on the mean streets of Hollywood.
Number 13, we're looking at Where My Dog's At. Another banger that we can thank Gemini S for suggesting. Let me just say that this series was really hard to find episodes for. The site that I watched shows on only had like 4 episodes on it, and they weren't even in order, so I just jumped in where I could. And the one that I ended up on was the Snoop Dogg episode. Where My Dog's At follows Buddy and Wolf, 2 dogs trying to get Buddy back home to his owner Jeffy. All the while they're making their way in Hollywood. I learned the show had a pretty short lifespan, running from only June 10th to July 29th. That's only room for like 8 episodes on a weekly basis. Not anything of any real significance, just crazy I've never seen a series with such a short lifespan. The series, from what I've seen, isn't great. The first thing that I noticed off the bat was the irony in John DiMaggio playing a dog catcher and then going on to be one of the best dogs in fiction. A real nice eyebrow raiser. And before we get into this, you may be thinking I'm just gonna start ripping the show apart. But even with whatever issues I may raise, a place that I can give the show its props is its soundtrack. Or at least when they're playing LL Cool J.
I need true love. And if you want to give it to me, girl, make yourself seen. I'll be waiting.
The first gripe that I want to raise with the show is the comedy. Pretty quickly you get a general idea of the types of jokes they'll be making in the show. They're so, I don't know, easy? Real low tier stuff like Snoop Dogg saying drop it like it's hot in the first 60 seconds that he's on the screen, or the dog catcher spouting out where my dog's at. Oh, it's like the show title. I get that. Another bone to pick, get it, that I have with the show is the god-awful character designs. By no means are the dogs ugly. I actually think their designs suit them very well, especially for their character archetypes being in line with their specific breed of dog, but It's those humans, PQ, boy, do those things just stink. From store clerks to cameos, everyone in this show just looks so damn gross. And they show humans pretty frequently for a show centered around dogs, so it's not even like it's just something I can brush off. Overall though, the show didn't make for the worst time, just a couple groans with every joke and abysmal visuals, nothing unbearable. Where My Dog's At, while practically nearing lost media, wasn't a ride that I'd tell anyone to turn away from. If you're a music fan or pop culture fan in general, I think this could fall up your alley. They do a lot of references to celebrities that I think can make for some nice attention grabbers for viewers that are looking for a show that's that type of speed. It's like Family Guy with references you don't have to be born in the 40s to understand, and except you're following dogs, so not so much. Look, it's not the best, but it's not the worst. I think you get me. While we find out who let the dogs out, how about we also go find out our next show? Moving on to number 12. So, when I started scripting and checking if the show had an intro, I ended up getting spoiled that Brenda fucking dies in the end, so that's great. Big shout out to Wade W for suggesting this show and for warning me about how ass it would be. I'm gonna do everyone a favor that you probably didn't already need me to do and tell you not to watch this shit. This show is the worst, and you saw the slop that came before this one, but trust me, it took the grace of God not to put this show at the bottom. The one thing that I can give it over those shows that I've already yapped on before is that it has a consistent storyline following a moderately adequate film. Where the hell do I even start? The characters, the god-awful plot, the food orgies? It is genuinely hair-pulling to even think about this show since watching the first 4 episodes of it. I couldn't even believe that I was able to stomach that much. Get it? Because, you know, foods. Anyway, this show is the absolute bottom of the barrel. Just chock full of low-hanging fruit. I'll stop. I will admit though, some of Sammy's jokes were nice in like the 2nd or 3rd episode when he started doing stand-up. It was one of the ones about the pair that really got me. But a sliver of grace cannot save such a wretched soul. And this series is indeed a wretched soul. Never have I watched something that's just so unnecessary. Like, my God, man, it's just mind-boggling. Like, why do we have this series at all? They had things wrapped up pretty tight-knit after the movie, so why do we need to continue on? Who cares how the food operates and develops as a society after making it out of the grocery store? They're foods. And that 5-second human war, what the hell was that? The way that they have to write humans so ridiculously incompetent so that the foods can have even the smallest chance of survival blows my mind. Like that scene with 2 guys in the woods and he gets the axe in his head. Just get the hot dog out of your... Look, let's contain ourselves. YouTube's watching. The show is just bonkers all around. You can't even watch this for fun. It's just so mind-numbing. I genuinely felt like I lost IQ points with every scene that passed. I hate the thought that I'm even gonna have to look at this to edit this, if I'm being honest with you guys. Way, I should have just listened to you from the start, and I will do the very best of my ability to forget I've even watched this show. I cannot thank you at all for bringing this abomination to my attention, and if this was a prank, well done. On to the next show. Sausage Party does not get a fun transition. Next show. Next up, we got Happy Tree Friends, coming straight from our friend Costom05 Productions. I'll call you CL5P cause CP sounds bad. Names aside, I'll be honest, I can't sit here and act like I have a ton to say about Happy Tree Friends. The people who know what this is and have seen it know that I say this from a good place, but there's not a ton to take away from this series. At least that's what I'm saying because I've only seen 1 episode of it. It's the one where the dumb moose is basically bodying everyone at the carnival because he did such a shit job on building the roller coasters. Now, like I said before, the show genuinely doesn't have much to take away. Like, you guys, the characters don't even talk. It's literally Tom and Jerry / Looney Tunes before adults. Honestly, I'm really contemplating how I'm even gonna show half of the footage for this stuff while I'm scripting it. The series is one of the most violent, whimsical, brightly colored bloodbaths I've ever seen in my life. It features some of the most creative kills I've seen in my entire 21 years of living. From being impaled by wood to having yourself grinded into a puddle trying to stop a runaway cart, or getting blended just for walking into a spinning turnstile. It's just raw. The series literally has you do nothing but watch these furry little guys go about their day-to-days until the 180 slowly progressively builds from one small accident occurring to kick off the butterfly effect of chaos and malice that's about to amore by the end of the 10-minute runtime. The show is just violence embodied, and I can't really speak on anything but that. The show tried to give these characters small bits of personality through their voiceless interactions, and hell, maybe I just plain haven't seen enough to feel satisfied with things, but honestly, this isn't something I can see myself going out of my way to watch. I do give the series props on its complete originality, like taking what made the classic silent cartoons of yesteryear work and revitalizing it into something new and polished while maintaining that charm is beyond excellent. Very well done, Happy Tree friends. If you're into series like Super Jail or Tom and Jerry and Looney Tunes, but you want that extra notch turned up a couple more dials on the intensity, then this is the place for you. Absolutely. They don't really paint the despair and negative emotion that comes with all of the destruction, which I believe helps it maintain that cartoony execution that the art style calls for. It's honestly genius. A lot of the show is really just skip based, much like the prior shows that I've used to compare it to, so don't go looking for consistency or plot lines and whatnot. But also don't let that steer you away, as if you're just looking to turn your brain off and get your jaw dropped for about every 2 minutes, then this is the show for you. Trust me when I say, just as you think that the chaos has settled down, you'd better be sitting on the edge of your seat because you'll be stuck to it for the entire run that you're watching one of these. Happy Tree Friends has a little, yet it gives a lot. I definitely can see why this had its long time run and long lasting community. If you ask me, that just about closes up things with our Happy Tree Friends. Now, let's move on to our top 10 adult animated series. Aw yeah, bringing us into the top 10, we got Asy McGee. I guess it's time to get to the bottom of things at the crack of dawn, am I right? Right. Another big thank you to Gemini S for suggesting this show and enlightening me on such greatness. Asy McGee is actually a really fun show, I won't lie to you. I was surprised that I hadn't checked it out sooner. I always saw it at a glimpse as a kid, but I never really gave it attention cause, well shit, you could guess, the guy's literally an ass. Speaking of our lovely main character, bro, I love Asy's voice so much. I couldn't stop laughing every time he cracked his mouth open. He sounds like somebody doing a terrible Shadow the Hedgehog impression. It's hilarious. Asy McGee has a really nice charm to it from what little there is to take away from the show. Somewhere I can truly give it props is how well it uses its low budgets to its absolute best. Great example in that is the intro for the show itself. The intro of Asy McGee uses a ton of, if not entirely, live action pictures for its visual as the theme song plays. And the first time that I saw this, I couldn't help but just bust out laughing for the first half of it, questioning whether or not I was actually looking at real life or just really well done editing. And by the time I got my answer, the laughter subsided and I'm already 2 minutes into the 10-minute runtime. Asy McGee, from what I've been able to watch, is that he is a great example of failing upwards, or suffering all the way to success, if you will. Kind of like Buggy and another example that I can't think of, but you can. Asy McGee is a show that I will definitely be adding to my late night rotation, and I definitely suggest you do the same. It doesn't take away too much time, and you leave more than you came with. It's a good time to be had nonetheless. As Asy McGee comes to a close, how about we get off our asses and head over to the next show?
Ball Masters.
For number 9, we got Ball Masters 9009. This one comes to us from our good friend Emma Shavaria, and let me be the first to tell you guys that this show is just as obscure as its name. Right off the bat, you get a bit of a lore dump, giving you the general basis of the show. Big war, dictatorship, the only way is the right way, common dystopian society. Simple. Oh, and there's only one sport in all of existence. Think you can guess what it is? Well, if you said basketball, soccer, football, baseball, fencing, bowling, or any form of gymnastics, you're incorrect. It's the game. Yes, the game, like BET. A bloodbath of a sport and the end-all be-all solution to the war. I watched the first season of this, so a lot of what I've taken away is pretty surface level to some extent, so by all means, correct me or enlighten me on where I may be going wrong based off of just not seeing enough of it. And the same goes for any of the shows that I've covered so far, as well as the ones that I'll be getting to in the future. At first glance, the show gives the impression of an anime parody, but it's so blatantly done that I'm not even mad at it. From yelling out special attacks to dynamic movements and even the bodily and face changes to correlate with the expressed emotion, you can mostly look to Gaz for that one. The way these tropes get thrown at you pretty much 5 times a second actually gives the show its own unique charm, rather than coming off as cringe or trying too hard. They even pull off the classic Sailor Moon parody with a little bit of Pokemon mixed in there. One of my favorite things they do in this series is the sliding animation when the characters are in motion. I'm telling you, it just screams that anime fans made this show. The love is absolutely there. The mystery of the Rad Wars and the power of the Ball Masters is actually such an intriguing plotline, and I'm genuinely excited to see where Ace and Baby Ball's story goes from where things left off. Bro, the animation switch that they do whenever any action starts up is absolutely gorgeous. It captures the intensity of the moment, whether it's a bar fight or a ball throw, excellently, and it also oddly reminds me of Super Jail, so you know there's no contention there. Ball Masters 9009 is such an amazing ride of a series. It's a bit questionable at the start, but if you stick with it, I'd say probably past 3 episodes, and you'll honestly start to find your place with it somewhere. The series has a lovable cast, a decent overarching plot, great comedy, and a unique art style. Honestly, I can't think of any negatives I've got with the show, aside from Quasar's scary ass design. But the more I watch this show, the more that I love it. The outro is one of the funniest that I've seen for a series to date. Like, they just say Ball Masters the entire time until the production tag cuts them out. I have no idea why, it just it kills me. Ball Masters 9009 in a sense is a love letter to anime fans, and a breath of fresh air in the cesspool of sequels and reboots that we have today. I can't recommend it enough, even more so if you're a fan of anime in general. But speaking of follow-up series, I've heard that they have a sequel series upcoming, if not already out, named Ball Masters Rubicon. So trust you'll be hearing from me about that show as well. I genuinely hope I do convince at least one of you guys to try this show out. It has a nice 10-minute runtime an episode, so you're not giving away too much of your time on a gamble. Just trust me when I say that it is a diamond in the rough. Oh, and there's a Thomas the Tank Engine parody if that's if that gets you, but yeah, Ball Masters. I think we've scored plenty with Ball Master over 9000. So without further ado, let's move on to our next show.
1, 2, 3, 4.
For number 8, we've got Mission Hill. Mission Hill comes to us today as another suggestion from UltraFlame64, the same one who suggested Clerks, so fingers crossed. This one follows the story of Jim, Posey, Andy, and his brother Kevin, all making their way in Mission Hill. Right off the bat, there's a few things that I absolutely adore. The theme song and, hell, the whole soundtrack. Like, that track that plays when Andy is walking home after he gets his date planned, chef's kiss. And second being that freaking color invert filter that comes on whenever a character turns the light out somewhere. And lastly, Andy.
That was great. You're the Spartacus of us wage slaves.
Thanks. I always thought of myself more as Popeye, but Spartacus is good too. Though it's not really fair to compare them because they lived in different times and...
He's just your average young adult, waking up late, 9 to 5 and getting influenced. He's like Mordecai with an ability to talk to women. Watching this show gives me the exact same vibes as when I would watch 16 as a kid. Meaning that if I saw this as a kid, it would definitely make me romanticize my 20s the same way that 16 made me want to be a teen so badly. Kevin and Andy fighting always kills me because it just turns into something straight out of those black and white cartoons with the flopping limbs. It cracks me up every time. And oh my god, wait, is that Tom Kenny?
Excuse me, could you tell me where room 410 is?
I think it's in my pants, man. Why don't you take a look?
I'm pretty sure it's not there. The 4 indicates it's on the 4th floor and—
You're whack, man.
One thing I was surprised about was how progressive the series is, with having a gay couple being a part of the main cast, and might I add that they're like the funniest characters in the show. Speaking of funny, the comedy of this series is so well done, just the right level of realism mixed in with the wackiness of this world. Something that really helps play into this world's obscurity is its art style. I saw a small video where who I assume is a member of the team that helped create the series speaks about their usage of radiant paints and colors when making the series. It just gives it this beautiful fluorescent kind of color scheme, and it really excels in the nighttime scenes more so. Another quality, or fun thing more accurately, that I'd like to touch on is that Kevin and Andy wear reciprocated colors. I noticed it initially in the grocery store scene in the first or second episode. See how Andy has the green top and the blue bottoms, while Kevin has the vice versa, the green bottom with the blue top. It's a real nice touch and a way to speak about your characters through something as simple as their wardrobe, emphasizing their differences and their similarities, where the two brothers are wearing the same combo of colors but with different approaches to the execution. A great way to really show us just how much love and detail was getting thrown into this. Mission Hill, from what little I've seen, is definitely one for the books. I plan to finish the show in its entirety after I'm done working on this vid, and I'm sure that my opinions on it will grow even stronger and become more solidified as I gather more of a catalog to back me up. Because at this point, I've only really seen the first 4 episodes. Mission Hill is definitely a series where the love is there. It's got just about a bit of everything you need, and it doesn't really try too hard to be edgy or cool or whatever. You know, it's the 90s and the early 2000s, so you have to be wary of it. It's a nice depiction of coming up young, as a high schooler finding his way through the POV of Kevin and just a regular guy trying to get by after his 9 to 5 like Andy. It's a show for all corners of life. It definitely does feel like something much needed in this day and age of in-your-face chaos and flashy lifestyles. It's all just blah. Mission Hill is a nice touch of reality, but a nice enough twist on it that things don't feel obscure. Jim and Posey make for some amazing characters as well. It's not just the siblings. They're honestly neck and neck with Jeff and Haley Smith for my favorite hippies in animation, but only time will tell. Mission Hill has done nothing but age gracefully from what I've seen, and I can do nothing but hope that more people will be gravitated towards this. If you haven't heard of it already, all if not most of the episodes are already in a playlist on YouTube already, so just be sure to give it a shot. Once you fall in love with it though, don't say I didn't warn you. Mission Hill is a show for the books, or television. Things just about over in Mission Hill? Join me over at our 7th place contender. That's right, for lucky number 7, we've got Venture Bros. This one comes to us from Dandy Kaiju. Thank you, Dandy, cause this show was quite dandy, if you ask me. Venture Bros is in short a Johnny Quest spoof, you know, the shit that used to come on Boomerang oh so long ago. The story follows Dean and Hank Venture, Brock Sampson, and Dr. Venture, and their various misadventures depending on the episode. It could be as tame as a trip to Mexico for a lecture, or getting the help of your ghost dad to fix an orbiting space station. Don't ask me to indulge further, as I've only watched 3 episodes. The series is a pretty decent time to be had. The jokes fly right off the wall literally as soon as the series starts.
And I thought I was supposed to be the smart one.
Ma Venture didn't raise no fools.
We don't have a mom, Hank. Last one to the hangar's a rotten banana!
I think easily my favorite characters are Brock and Monarch. They're just such great characters when the spotlight's on them. They don't have a dull moment. And I adore when you can see the humanity in a villain like the Monarch. He's like a PG-13 Dr. Doofenshmirtz in terms of the morality balance. Part of you is rooting for him when he's pulling off his schemes, but other times he shows that side where you see exactly why he's gonna get what's coming to him. Hank and Dean's innocence bordering stupidity can only run so well for so long before it gets dull to me, so I'm glad that we have such strong cast members to give out the variety. Dr. Venture getting us more on the sci-fi side of things, and we've always got to have a smart one on the cast. For God's sakes, like they've got Reed Richards in here just in case shit gets sticky. And then Brock's murderous rampages, whether they deserve to occur or not, or his monstrous lusts. It's usually either sexual or bloodlust, depending on which one comes first. The series, from what little I've seen, has heaps of potential in terms of the cast growing closer. Dr. Venture falling more into the fatherly role to the boys and not treating them like projects. the boys being able to grow beyond their, well, stupidity, and Brock, well, Brock doesn't really need to change that much. And the loads of schemes I just know I haven't even scratched the surface of from Monarch. The show has a strong 7 seasons, 3 of you are on Netflix, so I do look forward to seeing if it dwindles or rises. If you were a fan of Cartoon Network cartoons back in your day, I'd definitely take a swing at this, as it's practically one of your Saturday morning shows, but 18 plus. It'd be pretty hard to miss. Trust me, even with what little I've said here, the series has a ton to show. Definitely give Venture Bros a shot. Sometime after Ballmasters though, I'm so serious. You have to watch that show.
This is the Drawn Together House, where 8 different cartoon characters from all over the animated universe.
One more show keeping us from the top 5, and that's Drawn Together. This one comes straight from our usual suspect, Gemini S, and our good friend Raul. Thank you fellas, but I'll take it from here. Drawn Together is a series that follows 8 different characters, some, well, most if not all, representing or parodying different character archetypes and tropes produced from different eras and decades of animation. Like Clara being the Disney princess, Wildor just being SpongeBob, Xander being Link, Toot being Betty Boop, Captain Man, Superman, Ling Ling is basically Pikachu, Foxy I think is like Josie and the Pussycats, and I have no idea what Spanky is. I think he's supposed to be like the Flash animation of the time this show came out in. And speaking of the times, the humor in this series is a huge representation of what was okay and what wasn't back then. The most edgy, abrasive shit, ranging from the use of the R word to just the most blatant racism and just so much more. Honestly, it's hard to tiptoe around this stuff, let alone not show it while still being able to keep this video up. There's literally an entire episode centered around Princess Clara's mentally challenged cousin, and it's just, well, it did give us this scene.
Look, I got 20 large. It says you won't sleep with her.
Make it 50 and you're on.
Hey, if you're gonna be gay about this, you can't play.
Sorry.
Honestly, the idea of an animated reality show pre-total drama was already an eye-catcher for me upon seeing the series on Paramount. Horrible place to watch it on, by the way. Just go on Pluto or pirate it. I don't know. The concept of the series was already there, so all they had to do was not fuck it up, and man, they did not drop the ball. Drawn Together is parody done perfectly, turning these innocent run-of-the-mill characters that, if placed in any other context, would just be brushed off and fall into obscurity, as they're such blatant parodies of their characters. Drawn Together sets the perfect home for these characters to thrive. They really go full reality TV, even giving the characters random confessionals. Spanky's description being labeled as internet download not only emphasizes my Flash animation claim, but it also just really kills me. It's so blatant and silly. This show never failed to get a laugh out of me. This series is just rich with personality and jokes that are so well done. They really do such a great job at blindsiding you.
Remember, your ass is on the line.
Really? Hello? Hello? Oh, hey, thanks. Yeah.
To follow up with things, another thing that they surprise you with is the insane number of cameos they pull off, a lot of which emphasize how flexible the companies were with their IPs back then, and even more of them emphasize just how much you can get away with legally under the clause of parody. Like, you guys, I'm telling you, this is not just like a little name drop or head nod. No, they pull off some crazy shit, from Elmer Fudd to Homer Simpson to a little Jabba the Hutt and Charlie Brown, to the literal Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. Like, it's not even a joke or anything. They just throw in the literal model for Scorpion in a scene. Like, bro, this blew my mind. Speaking of video game references that sent me over the moon, dude, why did they do a Dig Dug reference, bro? When I tell you I lost my shit when I saw this, it's literally 1-to-1. Oh my god, I started geeking like crazy. Oh my god, you guys have no idea what this means to me. I've only seen the first season and up to the first couple episodes of the second season, and I've gotta say, this series is absolutely amazing. Like, honestly, I could genuinely argue this series being top 5 on the list, but I won't. The series is a classic nonetheless, and I can see a lot of good and bad that could have originated from consumption of this series early on. It's definitely poured some gas on the fire. That being said, I think the best way to capture how I feel about this series is it felt like watching a more developed early South Park. Like, that sweet middle class section of the series that has their most classic shit, just blatant in your face offense. But they do it delicately with a degree of class while also saying we don't give a fuck.
You know, none of us have really had a chance to hang out with Bleh yet.
Bleh? What's a bleh? Is that one of your jive words like emancipation?
No!
And it isn't even just the racial stuff where they get their kicks. When I tell you nobody's safe in this series, nobody is. And that's a part of the beauty. Everybody's a target. Toot being a stick man after going through lipo and vomiting until the weight was practically nothing is a great example of the blindsiding done with a degree of cleverness. Literally changing her animation style to a stick man to represent the 180 from her obesity, masterclass. The series is really a gem and I can't get enough of it the more I indulge. One of my favorite characters on the series is easily Captain Man. He's like Stan Smith from American Dad if he was a superhero.
I walked that entire mall all by myself.
Oh, was that today?
Yes, that was today!
Sorry, I had to restore peace to the Middle East. Again. Boy, those Muslims are kooky, man. I mean, have you read that Quran? It's mostly knock-knock jokes.
Y'all, I really love Drawn Together, and I can't thank the fellas enough for suggesting this one to me. It's definitely one of the keepers. Drawn Together has the charm of what was once wrong, but also what was once great. The negatives of no control over what's being thrown out at the viewer to hear/consume, but the positives of well-done collaboration and just fresh ideas altogether. Doing things like pulling off different tropes of different series each episode, testing new dynamics between the groups, and even throwing away the reality TV show plot half the time. The series is just spectacular. I absolutely adore this series and I can't get enough of it. I think I heard something about a movie also when I was looking into it, so this certainly won't be the last time that Drawn Together is seen of me, and I can't wait to see how it all wraps up in the end. It's definitely one of the best shows that I've gotten on this list by far. With Drawn Together painting the picture well seen, I say it's about time we head into our top 5 adult animated series. Kicking off top 5, we got Inside Job. Y'all, I am pissed that I have not seen this series sooner. Like, oh my god. I was genuinely mad at myself in genuine disbelief the more that I got into this series. The one we have to thank for this series is the lovely Envy. Shout out to you, I can't thank you enough for opening me up to this gem. Now, I finished the first season and the way that shit left off, I will be tapping into the second season. The series follows Reagan, Brett, Mike, Glenn, and Gigi, government officials that pretty much keep all your favorite conspiracies under wraps. From Bigfoot to a town that's isolated from the world and stuck in a specific decade of time. Yes, that's an episode, stick with me. The series is a nice combination of sci-fi, fantasy, and damn near every form of fiction you can find, mixed with a lovable team of characters. The series also has an extremely well done overarching plot between shadowy overlords and the corporate struggle for power between Reagan and her father. After learning Alex Hirsch played a part in this series, it all made sense on why this series was so well done, my god. It also inclined me to go scouring for any Gravity Falls references I may have missed. Inside Job is such a breath of fresh air in adult animation, and it always breaks my heart that shows like these don't get the spotlight anywhere near as much as they should be. I mean, the cast is strong as hell, and I'm not even talking about the characters. I mean the literal cast. Tisha Campbell is in this, Adam Scott, John DiMaggio, Kristen Slater, and more names than a Family Guy cutaway. This show is packed. The show, while it may just seem like another Rick and Morty remake at first glance, actually has a lot more to offer as you dwell into it. The growth we watch our individual main characters go through mentally and physically makes the journey feel that much more worth it. Watching Brett establish a real relationship in our cast and learning his worth, seeing Reagan overcome the damage Rand has caused her mentally over the years, and giving her a realistic, well, as realistic as you can get, process of working through these issues with the help of her friends. It's all the more reason to get into this show as soon as you can. Inside Job is definitely one of the best that I've seen in a really long time, and I'm very excited for what the future of this series holds. Because after season 2, wait, canceled? It's canceled? Are you kidding me? You just give me what's basically televised gold and take it from me? Just who do you think you...
Celebrity Deathmatch!
Alright, after a quick debriefing, we're on to number 4. Celebrity Deathmatch. This one is arguably number 5 in reality because it's not exactly story driven in comparison to Inside Job, but take it how you will, Quattro or Cinco. In the meantime, it's time for a celebrity deathmatch. This series was brought to us by, say it with me now, Gemini S. Jesus Christ, they're on a roll today. Celebrity Deathmatch was easily one of the best series that I watched. I'm a huge sucker for pop culture, so I easily fell in love with this series just scrolling through the episode guide. Christian Bale versus Adam West, Mariah Carey versus Jim Carrey, Busta Rhymes versus Shakespeare, the possibilities were endless. And then I went on Paramount. Yeah, they only had 2 seasons, so I had to move around a bit to find some good episodes, if you know what I mean. The series synopsis best put is your favorite celebrities being put in a boxing ring and battling to the death. Now, I know I said a bit about Happy Tree Friends, but my god, when I tell you this show made for some of the most Looney Tunes ass kills I've ever witnessed in all my years of living. Shaq uses Kobe's body parts to shoot free throws. Chris Rock slingshots himself through The Rock's stomach. Tina Fey impaled Jon Stewart on an anchor, and just so much more stuff that I can't even show you. Trust me, it gets ridiculous. Funnily enough, the show does remind me of the Goku vs. Everybody animations that Toonsmith used to make back in the day. Just premise-wise, and the endless possibilities provided, much like the Goku videos were full of. Speaking of endless, the blood, brawls, and battle aren't all that the series is good for. Celebrity Deathmatch actually turned out to be surprisingly hilarious. The commentary provided by fictional hosts Johnny Gomez and Nick Diamond put this show above and beyond in my eyes. Their timing is impeccable. These two never miss a beat. And whether it be a bit or a one-liner, these two never fail to get me cracking up.
Her first love versus the father of her child. But who will win is anyone's guess.
If I were a betting man...
Nick, you're in Gamblers Anonymous.
Well, it's not anonymous anymore, is it, Johnny?
Let's get down to ringside.
All in all, the series, while not having a chronological sequence to follow, provides fans of celebrities of all genres a place to essentially turn off your brains or critiques and unwind. Fans of things like Death Battle or any type of versus battles would definitely be a fan of this. I won't suggest this one to about everyone because I know gore and such isn't for the weak and the series does get a bit violent. But if you're looking to get away from the good old-fashioned values and check out the violence in these movies, then by all means, give Celebrity Deathmatch a shot. Just find an episode with a pair of celebrities you recognize and dive on in. I guarantee you'll laugh at least once. The series has a whopping 6 seasons and a PS2 game, so we could say they did something right. Celebrity Deathmatch is definitely one of the finer series I've watched that I can't help but suggest, so if you haven't already, give it a go. You won't regret it. With the final round being over, that closes out Celebrity Deathmatch. It's time for our top 3 adult animated series. At number 3, we've got Duckman, one of our best. For this show, we've got Zounce to thank. Godspeed, brother. This series was easily one of my favorites. It was super easy to get attached to this show. Everything about it is just so gritty and charming. It captivated me. I'd never seen anything like it. The world altogether, it's just the voices, the art, the characters, the way the world interacts with the people within it. It's just tops. Mind you, I've seen Duckman, but I've never seen Duckman. Huge difference between watching something on a TikTok clip and watching the full episodes on a YouTube playlist. Jason Alexander does a phenomenal job as Duckman, by the way. Now, don't get me wrong, I've only seen the first 5 episodes of the series, so I can't say I'm knee deep in my Duckman fixation just yet. But from what I've seen so far, they've got me hooked. The characters in this series are to die for. Cornfed is an amazing character and the perfect right hand to Duckman's cynicism and, well, downright pessimism. He's witty, funny, charming. He's got a voice smoother than butter on a hot summer sidewalk. He's just an all-around stand-up guy. And on the other end of the totem, we've got Duckman. Our main character, Duckman, is probably one of, if not my favorite depictions of a tragic main character that I've seen since BoJack Horseman. Watching this man crash and burn, grow and dwindle, shrivel and shrink is just beyond words. Duckman's mental and physical journey is one for the books, ladies and gentlemen. One of my favorite episodes, the more recently watched episode 4, depicts a part of this journey perfectly. Duckman and Cornfed being practically served these 2 women on a platter, hogtied with apples in mouth, when suddenly our well-known hornball Duckman is afraid, uneasy, refusing to engage with these women, to Cornfed and to the audience's confusion. It's only later on in the episode that we learn of Duckman's guilt that he carries with him from being the cause of his wife's death. He feels wrong to even think of touching another woman knowing she's gone because of him. He feels as if he's wronging her, and it makes him less confident with women. It's only after a therapy session with a Dami Mommy that Duckman is able to regain his confidence and begin his journey anew. A bigger and better Duckman. Now remember, y'all, I said this all happens in episode 4, meaning this is but only the very tip of the iceberg on the journey with Duckman. Who knows how much more we'll uncover along the way. From what I've taken away, Duckman is a series full of heartbreak, quick laughs, crude comedy, and tragedy. And beneath all of those lies mystery. The mystery of Duckman. What goes on in that mind of his? Will he win the battles that he fights each and every day? Will the negativity that leeches within his mind grow greater than he can handle, or will he overcome and conquer? There's 4 seasons worth of episodes for us to find out. Duckman faces foes greater than the thugs on the street that he puts behind bars or even the sins of his past. Duckman faces himself. He goes through each and every day being the only thing and only person standing between him and quitting. There's nobody rooting for him. The only constant positive he had was a flame who's no longer lit, leaving just him to carry the weight alone. The weight in question is the burden of living. Going through each and every day with the odds stacked against you. There's inspiration in Duckman. Beneath all of the abrasiveness, the comedy and quips, the lust and insults, lies a man getting up and trying again each and every day. Because he has hope in himself. He has faith in himself, regardless of what odds are being held against him. There's definitely a message that can be made from Duckman. Watching this guy of all people get by and brush the dirt off after falling on his ass, push on and keep going. It makes you think, maybe things aren't so bad. You've got to take the time to really think about where you are, not where you want to be. No matter what you compare yourself to or what anyone says to you, screw them. It's your life, not theirs. They're just backseat coaching as far as you should be concerned. So push on and fight on. Like Mob Psycho. I'm sorry, the show. Right. Duckman is easily one of my favorite series I've ever watched, and I've barely scratched the surface on it. The series has already earned its stripes and its placement as one of the most iconic TV series to ever grace television. To think, I only knew this show from a TikTok sound. Now it's impacted my life. You never know when something's gonna go the extra mile. If you haven't already, you should definitely watch Duckman. It's a journey that's worth sticking with, and I'm certain this isn't the last time that you'll be hearing about this show from me. I can only hope that this series can continue to inspire me and whomever else may give it a shot. Easily top 3 material. Thanks again, Zouts. With the case closing on Duckman, let's take a look at our silver medal before getting into our favorite adult animated series of all time. That's right, for number 2, we've got King of the Hill. This one was by far one of the most suggested ones on the last ranking bid. Let's give a round of applause to Reckless Robert, Aubrey the Otter, and John Tyberg. Now, King of the Hill is arguably the best adult animated series that I've ever watched. It's probably better than the show I've got at number 1, but I've only finished season 1.
You need to leave!
I know, guys, I know. So, with that being said, I can't give my full thoughts on the series as a whole, but I'll speak on what I do know from what I've seen. King of the Hill is one of the founding fathers of adult animation, an awe-inspiring, forever-lasting pinnacle in the industry, an absolute powerhouse of a series. This show took me completely off guard, presenting me with what it had to offer, a rich tapestry of stories ready to be weaved by the viewer. The show is just so damn beautiful in every regard, emotionally and, yes, visually. I know the art may seem a bit rough, but I feel like that plays into the rustic southern country atmosphere the world is built in, and even with its art style, it still finds its own way to still pull off some masterclass work. The scene where Bobby and Hank both sneak out to smoke and it transitions from the overhead shot to this nigga Bobby is some of the cleanest shit I've ever seen in adult animation. King of the Hill is just chock full of different lessons. It kind of feels like something you'd sit and watch with your dad on accident, and you end up taking away some lifelong lesson from it. The series doesn't miss a beat with its emotional opportunities. Hank fighting with himself, not wanting to admit that he wants Luann to live with him, but then going above and beyond to have the roommate and ready for her when she came home. Hank learning to tolerate his neighbor,
Just call me Khan. I don't got all damn day.
To follow up, King of the Hill is nothing short of a beautiful series. Lady Bird, Hank, Bobby, Peggy, Bill, Dale, and wait. So the whole John Redcorn thing, is he like dumb or does he know she's cheating? Like his son is, you know what? Not my business. Having only seen the first season of the show and already having these strong feelings in it is nothing but a good sign. I cannot stress it enough. You guys need to watch this series. It's amazing. I'll admit, it can seem a little slow at times, but you gotta trust the process. Any episode with Cotton in it is far from slow, trust me. The series is insanely funny and you come off surprised a lot of the time when the humor is coming from Hank or Peggy because they seem so tight-wound. But after a bit of time with them, you get a bit more familiar with how the ball rolls. By far, this is one of the best shows that I've watched in general. It's definitely an older show, but it doesn't hurt it in the slightest. King of the Hill's influence is definitely one to be remembered as it's one of the most iconic adult animated series to this day. Its magnitude is well earned, as I've come to learn, and I was a big old dummy for not seeing this sooner. The series has definitely got my eye, and I plan to finish it and maybe even do a little something on it after I'm done with the show. Until then, I can do nothing but pass the torch and suggest for you to start a journey of watching the show as well. If it wasn't worth it, I wouldn't suggest it, so please, give this one a shot. It's one of the classics for crying out loud. Sorry, been watching a lot of Sopranos lately. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for, except if you just click the timestamp like a jackass. The number 1 adult animated series on our list is... That's right, it's Midnight Gospel. I just want to give a big thanks to Aubrey the Otter yet again for having me revisit this gem. Midnight Gospel, since the first time that I'd seen it back in 2020, has been one of the most memorable adult series that I've ever watched in my life. Now, I was only 17 at the time when I watched it, so it wasn't hitting me on as great of a magnitude compared to how it has now. Midnight Gospel is a journey, to say the least. It's a journey within yourself, within others, and just overall, if that makes sense. You never come out the same way before you start that first episode. No matter what order you watch it in or which episode you pick up, you walk away taking something with you. It's magical. Also, Adventure Time's very own Pendleton Ward made this show, and trust me, the touch is definitely there, artistically and emotionally. The series follows Clancy, who's basically a space podcaster, visiting different Earths from different universes and broadcasting what he experiences and learns out to his podcast, The Midnight Gospel. On these journeys, we listen to Clancy's conversation with the inhabitants of these various planets, touching on different epics and countless tales, varying on different spectrums of life, from karma to death to the war on drugs, existential dread, and the cycle of birth and life in general. The series gets sticky. The finale of this series has one of the saddest scenes in all of fiction in my eyes. I'm talking same level as the Aunt May scene from Spider-Man 1. It also has one of the most ambiguous endings of all time, but within it lies a really nice message. To not worry about what's gonna happen or what has happened, but to just be. Find beauty in the right now. Just be. There's a quote I read recently that aligns with that. The quote states, "Be. Don't try to become." By Osho. You have to find peace with where you are, not where you want to be. It's something I've been learning to remind myself of lately, to give myself more credit for what I do. I chalked it up to the fact that I'm always looking ahead for what part of the plan I need to follow next. I remind myself that it's okay to look back, not to stay in the past, but to remember it. To remind myself that I've come a long way, regardless of where I want to be. There's also a nice Tyler the Creator track that suits the message perfectly. Enjoy right now, today. Each and every episode of this series, whether it were a line or a visual, provided me with a lesson of some way, shape, or form. Or better said, it provided me with influence somewhere along the way. Whether it changed the way I viewed my opinions or my goals or my relationships, it definitely did influence how I see the world around me and how I engage with it. And I can't discard it of its credit in being a part of me. This series is one of the most introspective pieces of work that I've ever watched in my life. And I just watched Interstellar for the first time, so I know a thing or two. The series is a spiritual joyride as well as an emotional one. You come out with weight gained or weight lifted depending on your baggage. The series is rich with fun characters and lessons to be learned, opinions to be made and minds to develop. It's only got a mean 8 episodes, so you really wouldn't be doing yourself an injustice checking it out. It's easily one of my favorite shows of all time. Each time you watch the damn thing, it feels like you're watching it for the first time. I do truly love this show, you guys. Also, Clancy's dog reminds me of mine. I wasn't really sure where to squeeze that in at. I do hold this series very dearly to me, so I can't help but try to push it on to you guys. So please, 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 please watch Midnight Gospel. I'm begging you guys. Like, I'm actually on my knees recording this. Please, I'm begging you. Watch the show. If you're a fan of deep combos, Adventure Time, or both, then this is right up your alley. Midnight Gospel is one of the most stellar journeys you can embark on, and I'm sure anyone who's already seen the series can vouch for that fact. It's extremely easy to fall in love with, and again, you'll come out different than the person who started the series. You can find it on Netflix if you're ever interested. I doubt it's your first time hearing about this series. I can't thank you enough, Midnight Gospel team. You definitely cracked the code when you made this gem. And a huge thank you to all of the people who worked on these wonderful shows I had the chance to talk about today. You've all truly made magic and memories for countless across the globe, and your stupendous work will never be forgotten. Thank you. Whew, that was an amazing list. Some highs, some lows, some stay, some go. But look, I just want to thank you guys so much for the love and the support, and to those of you who suggested these shows for me to check out, this whole thing quite literally would not be possible without you. I love you guys so much, and being able to do this for you. Be sure to let me know if you have any gripes or glades for me in the comments, and I'll be sure to get right back to you. And let me know some of the personal rankings that you've got. Hell, even let me know some shows that I missed. With that aside, I think that's pretty much a wrap. Until next time, guys, I love you so much, and I hope you make it home safely.